Good evening, everybody. And if you're just tuning in, thanks for hanging in there. We're running a little bit late, but if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Angel Rock with your host, myself, Laura Lee Potvin. I apologize. It was my birthday yesterday, and poor Joe, he thought I was taking the night off, but nope. Definitely not. Not with a guest like tonight. That's a good friend like this. A little bit about the show and myself if you've never tuned in. The Angel Rock runs live every night for 2 hours on Monday nights. The guests that I have are through the work that they're doing, could be hobbies, could be whatever they're doing, but they're making a positive change towards humanity through their contributions. I cover all aspects of the paranormal, I say, from anything from the actual paranormal to cryptids, UFOs, ETs. Then we get into spirituality, the esoteric, and I even cover hate the word conspiracy theory. I like truth seeking instead. If you've been here before, thank you so much for tuning in again. And if you're brand new, welcome. We'd love to have you aboard. A little bit about myself. I'm Canadian. I'm a psychic medium. I'm a crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, a spiritual teacher and mentor. I'm also a medical intuitive, and I'm a registered nurse. Now, tonight, I have a very good friend of mine. I always love having him on my show. Even when we talk off air, we can talk for hours. He's been, I think this is his third or fourth time on my show, and there's never a dull moment. He has an amazing I guess, bio, if you will. He's from Norway originally, he lives in the US. He was a pilot, he's a paralegal. We've talked, he's had a universal download. His vast amount of knowledge never ceases to amaze me. He's also a podcaster with Broadcast Team Alpha with his co host, Nori Love. And his name is Aage Nost. And I forgot author also, too. So welcome, Aage. How are you?
Well, hello. I'm just fine. I life is good. I got coffee, and the
Me too.
problem though is that I don't think I have 2 hours worth of coffee in here, so I may have to be deprived for the second hour.
Run and get some coffee. I want to say we've got people in the chat already. We've got Heather Sampson. Greetings from Ottawa, Canada. Welcome, your fellow Canadian. I forgot to mention, we are broadcasting out of New Orleans, Louisiana. We're on, as it probably know, United Public Radio Network. And again, I'm from Canada as well. So welcome, Heather. What I want to say, I want to give a huge shout out to Joe Montaldo, who's the owner and producer of all our shows on UPR. He's also a host of many of his own shows, The Gray Zone Uncensored with Michelle DeRoche, another fellow Canadian. And he has his UFO show on and aliens and all kinds of cool stuff like that Wednesdays. And then we've got host chats with him on Monday nights, paranormal, Friday nights, usually the Centralist. So thank you, Joe. I also want to give a shout out to Zach Man. He said, "Good evening, everyone. Happy belated birthday, Laura Lee. Thank you very much." Sorry. So if you need to grab coffee, Augie, feel free.
No, I'm good. I'm good for at least an hour.
See, you did screen share. You must have figured something out, or unless Joe put that up there.
Yeah, Joe did. Joe did that. We don't need this one right now because probably a little bit of talking first.
Well, let's talk because I don't think we've ever talked about this on air tonight. We're going to talk about Nikola Tesla and the spirit box, right?
Yeah, I guess we should talk about ghosts,
Let's go
maybe
there. Right on. Mm-hmm.
spirits,
Mm-hmm.
dead folks,
Mm-hmm.
maybe disembodied entities, and possibly interdimensional people.
Yes. Right up my alley. You know that.
Yeah, and from what I know about you, you got some own experiences in that arena.
Oh, yes. For anybody that does not know, and I've gotten received a lot of advice actually from Augie, even Nori. I did lose everything. I left my house that I was in, extreme paranormal activity for 11, almost 11 years. We shared a story on Paranormal Survivor on the Travel Channel. It's a crazy story. I'm writing a book about it, and let me tell you, between the pictures and what have you, but yes, I have lots of experience. So do
Yeah,
you too?
yeah. I don't have any stories that negative and extravagant, but there's some interesting stuff that we're going to talk about. And in fact, I'm going to get it out right away. If you want to know more about the paranormal, you need to go to broadcastteamalpha.com. And I want to do a shout out to my co-host and partner there, Nori. I think she
Yuri.
might be listening. So
She
this is going to
is.
be, oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Because she messaged me. I don't think you were in the StreamYard link yet. And I want to say hi to Shady D. She's joining us. She said ghost in the box in the chat.
Great.
But Nori messaged me and said, Laura, are you on at 9 or 10 tonight? And that was obviously Eastern. I said, we're
Okay.
on at 9. We're running a little bit late. And then poor Joe, he thought I was taking the night off if you're just joining me because of the birthday yesterday. I said, no, that's not something I'd ever do to you. I'd always message you first to let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be just like all home week then. Then this is going to be good.
Yes.
Um, I when it talks about getting in touch with anything outside of the physical,
Mm-hmm.
and that could even include your pets, the
Yes.
ones that you don't have anymore, or other things. Not everything outside of the physical are beings, there are also things. So it can get a little tricky out there. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you and I'm going to explain how I found about 5 to 6, probably more like 6 different ways where you can communicate with the dead ones. I'm calling them dead ones. They're not dead, they're more alive than we are. But
Yes.
spirits and ghosts and so on, you can, and it will work about all the time
Mm-hmm.
if you do it this way. So just hang in there, folks. We're going to get to the good part, because the thing about it is that when we talk about spirits and ghosts, and we said, people die and then they move on. Well, they really don't die,
Exactly.
because there is no such thing as death.
True.
We kind of shed the used car that we're running around in for about 60 to 100 years or so. And it's just like any other car, it wears out and you run it off to the dump and wherever it goes. That's the physical body. We wear it out and it goes away.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now, anybody that is questioning whether there is a life after death, there's 2 ways to answer that. One of them is the short one, and the other one is the long one.
I love them
The,
both.
the short one cannot be answered without a very short explanation with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that if there's life after death, we would like to say yes, but that if we give that singular yes to that answer, then we also presume that there is such a thing as death.
Mm-hmm.
And since there isn't, there is only the longer answer left, and that goes that there is no death. We are only a continuous life
Yep.
and existence. Life is the spiritual part of you that creates and has life. What we see around you here and all over, including inside of yourself, inside everything that you create in the physical, is not life, it is an existence
Right.
that is created by the mind and put into your surroundings for you to have experiences and learn and grow for the benefit of that soul essence, which really is you,
Yes.
for it to learn on. Because the soul itself, or the universal consciousness, the spark of life that actually is part of the universal consciousness in you, doesn't have physical hands and feet to run around and get experiences. That's what our body is for.
Yes.
We gotta use that body for the purpose of the soul to learn and grow, and maybe throw the used car away and then go back and gain more and higher spiritual capacity. But that, we've talked about that one before, so maybe I should get on the
Well,
on
no,
the
no, I think it's a great idea to talk about it. And again, I think it's just like anything, even what's going on in the world right now, people have their minds made up about certain things. And it's something I've been noticing for quite a few years now. unless it's in your bubble, if you will, we don't pay much mind, or something has to shake things up for people to want to look at other avenues, if you will. And I've said this often, and it's been upsetting to a few people, and I don't mean it that way, but when things are status quo and things are wonderful, life is just beautiful, you're happy, maybe you're newly in love, whatever it may be, new job, dream job, whatever it is, right? How many people have said, pinch me, I feel like I'm dreaming, I don't want to wake up. So, you're floating along and you're quite happy. I always say when there's an impetus for change or an impetus to look beyond the realm of your own little bubble is when something happens, something usually negative, might be painful, might be sad, and we always have that choice, right? And we've seen many a great thing happen through some very tragic events, because whether people have realized, I don't want other human beings to go through what I went through, many foundations, all kinds of things, even got the medical system where it is today is the result of the most horrific events almost 100 years ago with the Holocaust, with the doctor of death, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And, when we talk about spirits also, we are conditioned by religion and government to know that, we know this, that we're going to grow old and we're going to die. Well, okay, so that's a bad thing, right?
Hmm.
Maybe not.
Mm-mm.
Because that allows us to go back and reevaluate what we did
Yeah.
here. Find out, what did I screw up? Boy, did I screw that one up. But this worked pretty good, so I learned something from that.
Hmm.
Now we get a chance to grow. But for us that is left behind, that is a negative and a bad thing when somebody leaves us, because we don't necessarily grieve for them. We grieve for the loss that we feel.
Hmm.
And because if we think a little deeper than the average bear out there, then we know that when they move on, chances are they are in a much better place and they're happier, especially if they were all bedridden and couldn't see, and all kinds of things that happen to the older physical body sometimes. Then they can see again and they can run around and they can have no problems. So they feel good, but we are grieving for the loss in us.
It hurts them too, Augie, as a medium, and my own personal
Yeah,
experiences working with people, never mind even working in palliative care as a nurse too, but um, when people connect with their loved ones, if they, because I believe we have free will on the other side as well, and if they come through, they usually present, I find the way that they felt or they look the best in their life. So exactly, if they were bedridden or really ill, they appear really radiant, beautiful, or very handsome at the age they really loved. And it just depends up to them what age they want to appear at. But the thing I find is it breaks their hearts to see their loved ones in such pain, because
yeah,
exactly what you said, they're in such a great place. They're with family, if you will, family and friends, and even their soul family, if you will. They may not have known who they were, as they crossed over. That's a whole other story. We always have somebody waiting for us, but they're happy. And, that's why I love being a medium and working in that realm, because it's so healing for people. If we can connect and give them the messages, because they lose a lot of that humanness on the other side as well, I find.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I think this, I used to say this about UFOs, but we can work fairly well and close in the word of the spiritual world and ghosts and disembodied entities and so on. If all the evidence for these things were taken into a court of law and adjudicated in front of a jury and a judge, there would have been a conviction. There would have been an absolute finding that yes, they exist on the other side of the veil.
Absolutely. Hmm.
And the thing about it is that we have the pictures, we have videos, we have voice
Yeah.
recordings of them.
Hmm.
And we have found that we're never alone, because there's also saying out that nobody dies alone. That is usually true, actually, except for maybe there's accidents on the other side too.
Yes, there is.
But usually there is somebody that comes here and get them and say, hey, bud, you're done here now. Let's go home.
Yeah.
But I'm playing on words here, but that's
I call it
kind.
home. I call it home.
Yeah, that could work that way, except for the ones that is known to have been here in spirit form, plaguing people or walking around for hundreds of years.
Hmm.
We can see that on the battlefield on the East Coast where during the
Yes.
Civil War, there are still people walking around there in uniform. We have the pictures of it.
Mhm.
They have the gun on the shoulder and the uniform.
Yeah.
I, I spent a night in an old cathedral back in Europe. Oh, I was probably about 19, something, maybe 18. Yeah, I was probably, well, I may have been younger because I drove a motorcycle there. So I,
Mhm.
there was somebody made me a bet that you don't have the courage to spend the night in that cathedral. Now, this cathedral was about 1,000 years old.
Ooh.
We have those things back in Europe. And we snuck into the cathedral.
Mhm.
We went and hid. So when they locked the door at, I think it was 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, I forget what it was, then we were inside and all the tourists were outside. They didn't get in. So we were sitting up by in the back. There are several, organs back there where the music was played. And we were sitting up there. I remember, we were talking and not worrying too much about it. But after midnight, we start hearing voices. We
Mhm.
start hearing music.
Okay.
And at one time, we heard somebody like it was dragging chains and
Oh.
crying up the center aisle of the cathedral up towards the front.
Hmm.
And if those doors had been open,
Would have
we
run.
would have been gone.
That
But
is pretty spooky because, there's so much misinformation. Not that I have all the answers, but people believe that nothing negative can go into a religious, can't cross on sacred ground. They call it churches. Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of dark things in a church, pictures, video, people sharing experiences, or like, what the heck was that? Dragging itself with chains across the floor,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hmm.
And then after hearing a story like that, we ask ourselves, how long have those spirits been there?
Hmm.
What happened to them since they were dragging chains?
Yep.
I know for the last 200-300 years they didn't do anything like that, but the Vikings did.
Hmm.
And there were, 13, 14, 15, and the Christian church wasn't all that friendly with people.
True. Hmm.
So it was probably some type of spirit that has been there for hundreds of years
Hmm.
because they probably was killed or murdered in the cathedral
Right.
as a sacrifice or something. So there was a traumatic death where they got attached to the place.
Yes.
Or another way that we can end up with ghosts is that someone, let's say, that is very attached, they love their family, and then they die. And whoever comes to get them, they tell them that, wait a minute, I'm not done yet. It's just, give me a little time here. They hang around and hang around and hang around until whoever comes to get them say something like, well, just give me a call when you're done.
Hmm.
And then they leave and they lose the contact. They don't know where to go. So they hang around the family as a spirit
Hmm.
because they are so attached to it, they don't want to leave.
Or
That,
physical things I found, or because of religious dogma, somebody's committed suicide and believes that hell awaits them on the other side. There's many reasons. I did want to read our comments because we've got some good comments, if that's okay, Augie. We've got excuse me. Zach Man says, if my body is like a used car, it's also affected by hyperinflation. No, it's not, Zach. You've lost a lot of weight. Shady D says, my car has rust in the wheel wells. Can we discuss a body job with the ghosts? We've got Mike Walker. Hello from California. Welcome, Mike. Shady D says, birth to death gets you closer to going to your home origin. Every experience gets taken with us to our home, and we get to discuss our findings with our soul group. And then she added, now someone in Mastermind said something about large fleets of UFOs just outside. Are they waiting for this mass exodus because of the medical intervention lately? And then Zach says, I've been to the Gettysburg battlefield. I can attest to that. Yes, there is spirit still there.
Mm-hmm.
Nori says, Nori Love, that's your co host. Aage, another good friend of mine as well. So welcome, Nori. She said, I heard 6 billion walk ins are coming in, advanced beings, and we need that, Nori. Shady D says she can't spend the night in the cathedral. Uh, Shady says, hold my beer. So basically, she said she was going to do it. And then she said, after you shared your story, she said, oh, that's interesting. And then Nori said, I went to a Catholic church recently, and up in the stained glass window was an upside down cross. I am not surprised at all. We got just a few more comments. Shady D said, dragging chains because they were in a dungeon, possibly is what they added. I don't know about that. The way you described it, Augie, it almost makes sense with the Vikings and what you were saying, but who knows, right? That was a long time ago. But Nori has a question. Can a ghost cut the seam of my jeans open, smash a bracelet, throw pictures off the walls, and go in my purse? I will answer that one. Absolutely yes. What's your thoughts, Augie?
I didn't hear the first part of that. Could you say again?
She said, Nori said, can a ghost cut the seam of my jeans open, smash a bracelet, throw pictures off the walls, and go in my purse? And I said, absolutely yes. And I said, what's your thoughts?
I kind of have to agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing about it that it may not have been exactly the ghost all the time that do these things. It could be the energy that they are putting out that has an effect, especially on electric things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, ghosts can do all kind of nasty things. And the thing about it is that if they've been hanging around in the lower astral worlds where all the garbage is, they can be angry, they can be confused, they want your attention, so they do things that make sense to them to get your attention, like just throwing a painting off the wall and let them, hey, I'm here, talk to me, they do stuff that you don't like.
Mm-hmm. I always use the analogy. Um, I think I was just talking about this a couple shows ago, but I use it often privately as, or, in a reading or what. But I say, especially people that die very quickly or tragically, may not realize they've passed. So if you have somebody like that, or somebody even that chooses to stay around earthbound for the reasons we've just talked about, and there's many more. The other thing I found, if it wasn't such a nice person in life, they usually don't become sweet and wonderful if they choose to stay earthbound. They carry that personality with them in death. But I've said, so say you died tragically, didn't realize you had died, but nobody's able to hear you or see you, you notice all of a sudden. So you go back to your house and you're hanging out, living life the way you always have, and these strangers move in your home. And you're,
Yep.
what the heck? How am I going to get rid of these people? So you start doing things, like you said, to make yourself known. But we often hear this in the paranormal when renovations start. Things really act up. Now, this isn't the only reason. A lot has to do with energy, like you just mentioned. But say you do have somebody earthbound, you believe it's your home for whatever reason, and these people are ripping your house apart, and they can't hear you or see you. Maybe haven't been able to figure out why. What would you do to stop them from wrecking your house, taking your things, and so on, right?
You know, that's exactly what I want to get into here when I talk about these 5 or 6 different ways that you can communicate with spirits.
Yeah.
Because we really should have gotten on this. I'm behind schedule here, so to speak. But the first one I want to talk about is the Tesla Spirit Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that was in 1901.
I'm going to text Joe while we're talking and ask him to put that page up. Okay,
Yeah,
Augie? Is that
we can move that website up so we can see the picture of it. Tesla Spirit Radio was created by Nikola Tesla in 1901, and he filed the patent for it that actually was granted in 1903.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, there were no radio stations anywhere,
Yeah.
but this thing worked.
Mm-hmm.
And because the first commercial radio station came online in 1920, and they were regulated and named it KEKA. That was the first radio station. But
Oh,
Nikola
okay.
Tesla, yeah, I wrote down what he was said in an interview, and I wrote it down because I want to make sure I get this right for you guys. This is in Nikola Tesla's own words. My first observation positively terrified me, as there was present something mysterious, not to say supernatural, and I was alone in my laboratory at night. The sounds I was listening to sounds like human voices conversing back and forth in a language I did not understand.
Ooh.
Think on that. Nikola Tesla was fluent in 7 languages. So this was not a common language that he was listening to these people talking back and forth on his simple radio made out of 12 different parts.
Mm-hmm.
So back then in 1901, there may have been possibly as much as 20
Thanks, Joe.
radio apparatuses in the whole country. And his was
Mm-hmm.
only one of them. And this kind of transmission did not go very far. So he had to have tapped into something in the room where he was
Mm-hmm.
that was invisible to him, but was visible to the radio that you see on the screen here right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Tesla Spirit Radio.
Okay.
And yeah, that's what it looks like. And if it was rotated, you can see that it has 2 spiral-like antennas close to each other.
Okay.
And actually, it looks kind of like maybe an old Van de Graaff generator, which was invented way back in the 1880s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that worked as an antenna as well, both for receiving and transmission.
Cool.
And this was a crystal radio that he was listening to that needed not to be plugged in the wall. It had no energy going into it because the energy was created from the source of source that he received, that agitated a crystal that vibrated and created the voices that he was listening to.
Wow.
Now that's deep for 1901.
I was just thinking, what advanced technology. And I was so excited when you sent me this link because this site is one of my favorite sites. I have literally been on this site for about 10 years. I will tell you, people, there is anything you want to know how to do, to build, to find, to anything, it will be on here. From cleaning things to craft things to electronics to you name it, it is on there. And people put videos, right? Augie, you've been finding all kinds of stuff on there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that want to see more and read more about this, in fact, get a total list of components that go into this one. If you want to make one, go to it is in www, of course, and then instructables.com.
They used to have an app.
Huh?
They used to have an app, but they stopped supporting it about 5 years ago, and I miss it because the app was really easy to use. We do have a question from Shady D. She said, "Where does this sound come out?"
It is there is a speaker like thing that it's in the parts list. I guess you can see it there later on. But what they do here is a very simple one. Now later on, I found if you go to YouTube, you'll find a whole bunch of people that has built these things, and you can listen to them. And boy, oh boy, you can hear some things that will make the hair in your neck stand up. Actually, there is one of them there that I found, and I would love to have seen that, have showed it here, but it is on YouTube, so we don't want any,
Well,
copyright
we can give
violations.
the link, Augie. We'll tell people where to find it on YouTube. But I'm not going to look that up. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure they used a version of Nikola Tesla's spirit voice box, if you will, in the skull experiments. There's a documentary that it was done on connection with spirit and what have you over in the UK about 10 years ago. If you can look it up, people, you're listening, it's S as in Sam, C as in cat, O, L as in lion, E as in elephant. Amazing documentary. And I'm positive there's a gentleman over in Italy that was using this exact device. You wouldn't believe, Augie, you're absolutely right, the kind of communication you get.
Yep, yep, absolutely.
It's,
Here's the parts list.
okay. And then I'll give the name of the YouTube
Yeah,
video.
and when you go to YouTube, there is a it says there was, I forget what, there was interview with he contacted Nikola Tesla, and Nikola Tesla came through.
Yeah, the
What
video is called Spirit Box with Nikola Tesla. Let me look up the video channel name for people because
There
they
you
can
go.
go there.
Hmm.
The channel name, that's what it is called, Life to Afterlife, which is all one word, Spirituality Series.
Yeah, that's good. What he did though is that he cleaned out the static and the
Mhm.
background noise,
Right?
and he applied someone else's voice to articulate what it said. So this will make sense when you listen to it. But he talked to Nikola Tesla. In fact, he found one of his spirit guides that was on site with him all the time. He
Wow.
asked the spirit guide to go and get Nikola Tesla,
So
and the
I
guy.
didn't realize before the show, too bad we couldn't play that. So he actually communicated in spirit with Tesla while he was still living. That is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, this is phenomenal. So in fact, you got to go watch that one.
I've saved it already.
Yeah. And another one that I think we just passed by that picture, that was one guy that he had the Tesla radio and he ran it through a computer. In the computer, he was filtering out all the background noise and the static, so he ended up with just the voice.
Wow.
And now you can't do that with the contraption that Nikola Tesla created. Unless if you run it through a computer, you can filter all that out, and that is, of course, a little bit above my pay grade, so I'm not able to do that.
Mhm.
But this little contraption right here, I looked on the internet, and I see several places where you can buy the parts, and it can cost you anything from $20 to $30 for the parts.
Mhm.
If you are as intelligent on electronics as I am,
Mhm.
you need a friend. And and if you have a friend that can make this, have that friend buy two sets and tell your friend, if I give you two sets of pieces, 12 parts to it, so you can talk with spirits afterwards, would you make one for you and me? And
Cool.
when that friend do it,
Mhm.
and then you have one and your friend have one, and you both can experiment with it and compare notes.
You know who I think I can get to build one of these? Dell. his uncle's an electrician, but he's pretty well versed in this like electronics and stuff like that. So maybe I'll have
Yeah.
to give him.
Another, yeah,
Mhm.
another one is hey, Joe can do this. He's on here with us. Joe is
Joe
pretty sharp.
Montalvo.
I bet he can do it.
Well, yeah, actually, Joe and Dell have similar experiences. Like I call it Joe's day job, but I'll bet you he could, yeah, with all of his experience with everything else he's done in the Navy, and yeah,
Oh,
good.
yeah, it's just you can do that laying down. That's easy.
I'm sure
Yeah,
he could.
that's good. That is good. Yeah. And now this contraption has two antennas.
Hmm.
And it is said that with one, it doesn't work. You got to
Okay,
have two because
okay.
they feed off of each other or build each other up for some reason. Now,
Hmm.
there's two types of antenna also. You see one here, but then you have the football looking one that is a little further down into the no, right there. It is on the right, the lower picture. That is the football-looking antenna that uh, I have not researched that one, but some people say it works just as good as the other one.
Joseph,
And
let him
this,
know, Augie, when you want it down. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please go on. This is so fascinating.
yeah. Now I think that for people that really want to get into this, maybe try both antennas. It's there also is a way that there's I think it's in this probably in this website where they explain how to make that football looking antenna also. And it is pretty simple. I didn't say easy because there's a little you got to cut out some cardboards and stuff and then lay this wire on top of it. So it's a little bit of work involved, but it could be worth it.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's what you can do.
You've been on a roll because I know that you also, I watched that video that you put out, and I know we'll have time to talk about it. I always give people at the end of the show time to talk about where to find them and stuff. But it was with the mastermind, and it was how to build a UFO. Was it a UFO? Was it a connection machine? I remember it could call UFOs too as
Oh
well.
yeah, yeah. That's the UFO detector that I did when I was
That's what
back
it
in
was, the
Europe.
detector.
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
right.
a little kid.
Hmm.
But yeah, that one you can go to broadcastteamalpha.com, go into the picture gallery,
Right.
and you'll find that UFO detector that you can make for about $20 and maybe 30 if you don't cheap it out like I did.
Yeah.
And then it's page 15, I think, in the picture gallery. You will find that drawing of it with a good explanation on how to make how the circuitry works. It's very simple. It's got about 5 or 6 parts to it. It
Hmm.
ran around a compass, but that's a different story.
Well, I'm going to have you back on. I know I am again because people are going to be asking me a million questions after this. I know they are. And we started a little bit late because I'm fascinated. I have a question for you. So, you
Oh,
haven't built this yet, or have you tried it, or you're just in the research phase of seeing what other people have done?
I have not tried this Tesla Spirit Radio. Like I said, it's above my pay grade to make it, so I haven't found anybody to make it for me yet.
Okay.
But it would be kind of fun to do actually. If I find I'm sure I know somebody that could do it, but I just never asked anybody. So
What's the expensive part of it then, Augie?
what's that?
What's the expensive part of it then?
I don't know which one is the more expensive one. The whole thing can be put together for about $20-$30.
So it's just when you say above your pay grade, then you mean jokingly, but it's a little bit more
Well,
complicated to put together then.
this pay grade.
Now you've got my interest, my intrigue going. I think I'm gonna look into this and see. I'll have to let you know if I make it and how it goes. I have to bring it to a mastermind one Sunday if I can build one and get it to work.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, and gosh, I tell you, Nori and I would love to see if people listening out there, if they want to be part of a
Yes.
mastermind session, try
Hmm.
to come and check it out
Hmm.
and find out what the mind can really do.
Yes.
You would enjoy it. So send us an email to the mastermind connection
Hmm.
at gmail.com. The mastermind connection at gmail.com. And we'll send you some information, and we'll make sure you get a link to go and join us on Zoom on Sundays at 11 o'clock Pacific time, 2
Hmm.
o'clock in the afternoon, East Coast time.
Hmm.
And I think you're going to like it because we do some incredible things, and we have done some incredible things. In
Yes.
fact, we have bent the laws of physics sometime when you put your minds together. Remember, the definition for the mastermind is when two or more minds are united in harmony, they create a third mind that has the potential mind power of the two or more of them multiplied by each other.
Yes.
So if 10 people get together and create a mastermind, you have the total energy of the minds of 100 people.
I had to ask you, remember when you said that to me? I said, how did you get to 100? And then after you explained, I went, duh, because it's 10 times 10 people, right? One talks to the 10, then the other talks to
Yep.
the 10, then the other three, and on, right?
10 times 10.
Hmm.
If you got 1,000 people getting together, 1,000 times 1,000 is a million minds. Now it's not just a thought anymore. Now it's an energy
Hmm.
that goes, it's a creative energy created from what we are focusing on.
Hmm. You've had some incredible things that have happened, like you said. I do want to give a shout out. We've got Carol Sloan. I think she must be on our secondary YouTube channel. Welcome, Carol. Glad to have you here. If you've got questions or you're just joining us, I know Augie's still got lots to share with us because I always say whenever I have Augie on, we never do the same show. We could probably do a show every week and it would never be the same.
Well, no, because I would run out of coffee.
You can go get some more coffee. I have no problem talking. You can grab some coffee if you need it.
I still got some coffee left.
Okay, me too. Me
But
too.
there's another way that is coming online here very shortly where people
Okay.
can communicate with dead ones.
Ooh. Okay.
And that is something. There is another website that I sent you that's called the Soul Phone.
I don't think I got that website, the Soul Phone. Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
You didn't get that?
No, you did.
Okay.
I just got those two links, or I would have posted them.
Okay, it is the soul, no, soulphone.org, soulphone.org.
I'm getting it right now. So I know Shady D will probably post it for me. She's been great doing that. What you've been mentioning. She's
Now,
typed.
Joe could probably bring up that website because this has an awful lot of credibility. The Soul Phone is done by Dr. Gary Schwartz at the University of Arizona. He's,
Okay.
he's a PhD, and he deals with things on both sides of the veil. And
Wow.
this has got a lot of credibility. In fact, he got it patented.
Ooh.
Patented on how to communicate with souls.
I love it.
Yeah. And he created a circuitry and he ran that through a computer.
Hmm.
And actually, what he ended up with was somewhat similar to a radionic computer. Now, he doesn't say that, but I know enough about radionic computers to know that there's some similarities. I
Okay.
used to have a radionic computer, a Mark 12, made by Copen Labs over in England. And what he did, this circuitry running through a computer, so you can sit down at the computer and you can type in questions
Wow.
for somebody on the other side to answer. They come back and they answer in form of yes or no. That is all they can do right now. Yes or no. The yes shows up as a green light. attached to the computer, and no shows up as a red light.
How do you know who you're talking to, though? Like, because that's one thing
Well,
we have to be careful with
that's
spirit communication.
they request someone to be there, a specific person or entity to be there, and that's what they presume the answers are coming from.
Mhm.
I think they presume. I am not so sure if they actually have any confirmation, but the thing about it is that they have done this hundreds and hundreds of times. And when they ask a question, sometimes very tricky questions, the answers always come back correct. They
Interesting.
ask questions that hardly anybody know the answer to,
Mhm.
and the answers come back correct. So what Dr. Schwartz and his crew has done, they have created the real thing. There is no joking about this one.
Mhm.
So yeah, for those of you out there that want to have a look at this, go look at soulphone.org.
Yeah, I wrote it. Yeah. Mhm.
On there also, they have an advisory council
Okay.
of some of the most credible thought leaders in the world is on there.
Okay.
Raymond Moody is one of them,
Mhm.
and many others. And I could have read them off if I was looking at it, but this is something. It's the real thing,
I
and
believe
they
you,
say
Augie,
with
because I'm looking at the website, and I have a lot of respect for somebody that includes a skeptics corner they've got, hypothesized collaborators. There's research. This is a really comprehensive website too. I'm really impressed with what they've got here.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, Gary, I met Gary about, oh gosh, it's got to be 18 years ago here in Tucson. We were doing some experimentation that was a little strange, and we talked to him, and he
Mm-hmm.
got very interested in it. But he said, for me to do anything, he says, it's got to be funding, and I'm so busy that right now I just can't do anything.
Do
But
you know who's on here, whose name I just saw that really piqued my interest? He doesn't use doctor in front of his name anymore, but Dr. Eben Alexander.
hmm
Some people may not know that name, and I've studied near death experiences for 40 years. I also believe I had one as a toddler, about 2.5 years of age. But this was a man that was an atheist. And
yeah,
when you see what he's doing now after his near death experience, it'll blow your mind. That's why I'm fascinated to see his name on this. There's quite a few names: Bernie Siegel, Konstantin Korokov, Lynn McTaggart, PMH Atwater. She was one of the original. I know, like the back in the 80s when it was sort of taboo to talk about near death experiences. She was one of the scientists. Anita Morjani, who's also had she was dead basically and
yeah.
full of cancer. I mean, amazing people that are on here. You're absolutely right, Augie.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal list of people on that advisory council, and they like for Ibn Alexander, he was an atheist and he died. He was gone for almost 30 minutes with flatlines.
Yeah.
He went to a spiritual world and he had some phenomenal experiences there, but they woke him up and he came back and he's now traveling the world talking about it.
Yep. And he has received so much backlash from,
Yeah.
I believe, the Western medical community. But I think it's utterly fascinating for somebody. I mean, he was a neurosurgeon and ended up getting meningitis himself and going into a coma for quite a few weeks and a near death experience. And like you said, now he's traveling the world. He's written a book, he's sharing his story. I mean, I think that's phenomenal.
Yep.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Well, so now we know about the soul phone. Keep track
Okay.
of this one. Dr. Schwartz says that give me 5 years, he says, of experimentation, and I'll have a device that you can talk back and forth with.
I love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Hmm.
Now that was a year ago he said that.
He's had lots of time on his hands, probably.
4 years. All right. How about another way that we can communicate
I
with?
love it. Yes, yes.
There's another way. It's a simple one,
Hmm.
and that is doing like a guy over in France did.
Oh,
I
I know
read,
what to
I
say.
read his story. You remember that one, don't you?
I love it. I've never tried it yet, but I need to.
Yeah, and I know there are people listening probably that heard this story before, and
It
you need
belongs here.
you need to hear it again. That's why
Yeah.
I'm saying it. So the thing about it is that this guy over in France, he built himself a Tesla coil. And through using this Tesla coil, he was able to take pictures of departed people just about every time he tried it.
Yeah.
And he had a camera and he took the Tesla coil, walked out to a graveyard, or he could go into somebody's house that was said to be haunted,
Hmm.
or he could take it other places that maybe there was suspicion of something goofy going on.
Hmm.
When his favorite place was to go to the graveyard.
Right.
And then he put the Tesla coil right next to the grave or sometimes on top of the grave. I forget what he said about that.
Hmm.
And then he had an extension cord, plugged it in, turned it on, walked away about, I think it said 6 to 10 meters, something like that. That's about 20 to 30 feet.
Hmm. Excuse me.
Started taking pictures.
Hmm.
And most of the time, or a lot of the times, he was able to take a picture of the guy laying in the ground, standing next to the Tesla coil, looking at him.
Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah. Hmm.
And he was, he thought this was great. So he started showing it to his friends in this little village down in southern France. And that didn't go over too well with his friends, very,
No, I.
very Catholic area.
Hmm.
And of course, they thought, holy moly, he's working with Satan because
Blasphemous.
this is Satan's work. So
Hmm.
the guy, he had to move out of town because he said if he hadn't moved, they probably would have killed him.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Hmm.
That's after he moved that he was interviewed, and he gave this interview to a newspaper that I think went viral over for a very short time in Europe. A lot of papers picked it up.
Hmm.
And like a newspaper hound, I found it and I read about it, and he said that this was something that anybody could do, nothing special about him.
Hmm.
Find a Tesla coil, and he said use a Tesla coil, and when there was a picture with it, in that picture, the Tesla coil probably looked about 2.5 foot, maybe possibly 3 foot tall.
Hmm.
So it could have at least 500,000 volts,
Okay.
I would say. It could have several million, depends on how he wound it.
Hmm.
But for him, in the picture, the Tesla coil looked like it went a little bit above his knee when he was standing next to it.
Okay.
And then he had a camera that looked like a box. Remember? No, you probably don't. This is your camera. So,
I
but
remember the old cameras,
yeah,
Augie. You're not
there
that
was
young.
like a black box with a
Yeah.
button on top of it, and you open up the whole back and slide it out, and you
Yes,
put a
I
roll
remember.
in
I
it.
had one of those as a little kid.
Oh gosh, I wish I had mine. But
Me too.
the film in it was also a lead-based film.
Mm.
So there's something about lead that attracts, or it can reach into the higher vibratory light and record it onto the film.
Hmm.
So because our eyes, they can only see about 2 to 5% of the light spectrum.
Yes.
There's another 95% in higher vibrations in light that can be observed if you trained yourself to it. But
Mhm.
it's not physical light, all of it. So your eyes cannot see it, but your mind can see it.
Okay.
So what could probably happen here is that the film was able to record the higher vibratory light outside of what he could see.
Hmm.
Because when he put that thing next to the grave, walked away and started taking pictures, he didn't see a thing.
Right.
But the guy showed up in the film.
That happens a lot though, because there's a YouTube channel I really like, and it's called Nuke's Top Five. I believe he is over in Norway. He
Hmm.
sounds like he's North American. Have you ever seen his channel?
Very likely.
I like his channel because I believe he's more of a skeptic. He never tells people what to believe. He always says, "Is it all an elaborate hoax? You decide." But he gets videos sent in from all over the world of unexplained activity, paranormal experiences. But that's not so you get a lot of stuff depending on where in the world it's coming from. But my
Yeah.
whole point between his stuff and many other channels or investigators, a lot of things show up on camera or video that people did not see, did not hear, but when they review the evidence, it's when they see it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Especially also if you go out and get yourself an infrared camera.
Hmm.
Then you can see all kinds. That is really good for taking pictures of UFOs. You'll see them all over the place out there with an infrared. Or,
I like it. Hmm.
or if you get a hold of a fourth generation night vision goggles, you can also see them out there. The triangular ones, the cigars, the round ones. They're all over out there. It's a traffic jam out there.
Okay. I want to see now. I
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
looking.
Well, get yourself a Tesla coil, but get the
I
big
guess
ones.
I have to.
Yeah, get the big ones so that you can, because if you have just a small one, it only puts out such a small, much smaller plasma bubble where
Mhm.
you will be able to see things. If
Right.
you have at least a 500,000, it puts up a bubble that is a lot wider so you can have more chance of finding something in the bubble.
I get you. Yeah. I just like the fact, though, about the communication things that you've covered tonight so far, because I think it would change a lot of people's minds about the afterlife if they, because there's still so many people you talk to that believe
Yeah.
there's no such thing as the afterlife, there's no such thing as us going on forever. Or I've met so many people that have claimed to be an atheist, yet they believe in the devil. If
Yeah.
you believe in the devil, there's going to be something to put them there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's, there is a saying, that they used to say it in the war, there are no atheists in the
Okay.
trenches.
In the trenches. Oh, I'll bet that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because every atheist can say, "Yeah, sure, I'm an atheist," but they don't know.
For
So
sure.
when the chips are down, they're gonna say, wonder if I could be wrong."
Maybe I should pray just in case.
Yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
How about another way to communicate with dead ones?
Keep them coming, Augie. This is awesome.
All right. Well, I see we got a half hour left here, so I gotta pace myself a little bit. The thing about it is that just because somebody dropped the body and moved on
Mhm.
doesn't make them ignorant.
Mhm.
Whatever consciousness and knowledge they have here moves with them.
Absolutely.
They still have it. So they can still read.
Mhm.
Leave them messages.
Yes, you've told me this one too. Mhm.
Yeah. You see, they can see from the fifth dimension into the fourth dimension where we are. But our eyes are not designed to see up into the higher vibratory light regions of the fifth dimension and sixth and so on.
Right.
And another thing is that it's very likely, unless you engage telepathy, but if you do not, You can talk all day long, but they will not hear you because there is no air to transmit the vibrations of the voice into their existence.
That makes sense. Hmm.
So, outside of the physical, it is a different arena, but they can see you.
Hmm.
So, write some, let's say you have a ghost around the house. And I know this for a fact because I have told somebody about it. They did it, and the house turned quiet.
Love it.
So, leave them messages.
Hmm.
And I think I forgot to say something about the Tesla Spirit box that you can find on YouTube.
Okay.
On there, you will find that the guy said that he ran the voice transmissions backwards and then he could hear what he said.
Yeah, that's always fascinated me when people use like ITC and ghost boxes, spirit boxes, and they'll run it in reverse. Do you know what
Yeah.
the theory is behind why that works, Sagi?
Well, the thing about it is that we are here in the physical, and they're outside of the physical looking into the physical. So
Okay.
to them, everything in here will look like it is backwards. Like you walk into the bathroom and look in the mirror, hold up a written text that looks good to you here, hold it up in the bathroom mirror and it all looks backwards.
Okay.
So when they look into us, everything is backwards.
Okay.
So write your message backwards,
Okay.
because then they can read it easier. They can probably still figure it out.
Hmm.
But the thing also is that in the astral world, it is not as clear as much in color as here. So write on white paper with black ink, so there's great contrast.
Okay.
And use a thick. Don't use a fine point.
Hmm.
No, use thick black markers
Okay.
so that there is a lot of ink and there's a lot of contrast in what your message is.
Okay.
You could write something like, well, uh, show yourself.
Okay.
If you
But
have,
be prepared because a lot of people be careful what you ask for it. I always mentor people when I'm working with them. Be careful what you ask for. Like if you're really sure you do want to see, because you may not be prepared for what you're gonna see.
yeah, and what you see may not be what you expect because they may not be able to take the form that you expect to see. If they are
Exactly.
in the astral vehicle, if the astral vehicle is only there, they may not be able to take the clear contrasted physical expression that you are and I are seeing at right now because
Right.
the astral vehicle is a little fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because it's cloudish. It's and not much of color. There is color in the lower astral worlds, but not that much. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of darkness and so on. So it may not be pleasant to see. But if it's a higher consciousness being coming in, you can expect them to be accurate and clear.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I don't know anybody personally that has actually done that and have it worked. But I heard of someone that said they did.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, um, Moody,
Mm-hmm.
he talks about a place they call the Chapel in the Hills, where
Okay.
they created an Egyptian mind mirror. That
Oh.
is a square box with mirrors behind mirrors behind mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
And you walk into this box and they sit there in meditation and prayer.
Okay.
And whoever they want to make contact with come walking right out of the mirror into the room with them.
Wow. Now, do you see them in the mind's eye or with the physical eyes?
I don't know. They felt there was one. There's a book out. I think it's called The Chapel in the Hill or something to that effect. where there's one lady that sat in that room for off and on 3 days, got
Oh,
nothing. Then she went home.
right.
And she was going to bed at night. She was sitting on the bed, just, putting her robe on and getting ready for bed. And in the door came her son walking that had been dead for a year.
Oh,
And he walked up to her and hugged her. And he says, "It's okay, Mom. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Everything is good." Something to that effect.
okay.
And he says, "I was allowed to be here for a short moment to talk to you, but I gotta go."
Okay.
So he walked out the door and she ran after him, and there was no one there.
And try and prove that, right? Like, because a lot of times I found that people, when they experience things, it's not
Yeah,
necessarily, it was a gift to them, if you will, from her son to her.
yeah,
And
and
there'll always be people saying, "Oh, they lost their mind. They just imagine it. They just," you know, most people, not everybody, but most people, when if they'll share something like this, it's kind of out there. So if they're going to take that kind of, if they're going to be brave enough to share it, most people I find are
yeah,
tend to be honest. Yeah, not always, but most.
absolutely.
Hmm.
And in fact, what she also said in that recount of the story is that when she hugged him, he was very physical. He was solid. She could feel his shoulders. She could feel him.
Hmm.
So he was there physically, or at least appeared to her as a physical being, because most of everything that we see around us is imagined anyway.
That's true. When I first saw those movies, The Matrix, I found them kind of weird and a bit out there. But the more I find out about this entire world that, we always were told was imaginary, the more sense those movies make. They really do.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And when you have these kinds of experiences, basically just from writing a note, you can say, if there's someone that hanging around and they're in the house, write a message like, "Go home to the light.
Hmm.
You do not belong here."
Right.
And because they may not know, they
Yes.
could walk around wondering, why in the world is nobody talking to me anymore?
Remember that movie with Bruce Willis? I think it
Yeah,
was. That one was such a cliffhanger at the end when you realize at the very end that it was actually Bruce Willis that was dead. That blew my mind. That one
yep,
did. Hmm.
yep, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, this it gets really strange when you start diving into these things.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, too, we can tell them to go to the light, because if they go to the light, they will most likely make it through to the other end, where there always will be somebody. Well, I would think always somebody there waiting
I
for them.
believe that.
Yeah,
Just from working in palliative care and so many people you talk to, especially if somebody's terminal and it's not something necessarily like a quick accident or whatever, but you know that it's coming. And I call it the gift. I'm writing 3 books. And like I said, one is about our paranormal experience, one is with the autism journey, and the last one is nurses mainly, but I'm still looking for first responders too, about what you experience with patients as they cross from this realm and transition back home, as I call it. Because I call something, it's called the gift. I've named it that. I'm sure the people have used it. You don't always get it, but I've seen it about 80% of people that are terminal, and death is imminent. You've got the physical signs there, they're comatose, and sometimes you just get a minute. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. I have seen as long as 8 hours, and the person is like perfectly lucid, like long before they were ill. They're able to have those conversations, maybe that they were needed to take place before they pass, or what have you. And I will say very quickly, because I know you got more to share, that those ones are the hard ones, especially if you have a family that's very religious, because they'll believe it's a miracle, like they've
yeah,
been cured. And yeah,
hmm,
beautiful experiences.
yeah. Another thing that you can do that can work, because I have heard people do this,
Mm-hmm.
I've not done it, but I've heard people do this, and that works to make contact. And that is that when you know there's someone in the house, leave them a message and something like whatever message you want to leave. But you could also say, "Hold my hand."
Yeah.
When you reach your hand out, you may feel something, and it's usually kind of like cold.
Cold.
If
Yeah.
your hand gets cold, then there's somebody there close to your hand, because any spirit or a disembodied entity or ghost, for some reason, they suck energy out of the physical.
Yeah.
So your hand would feel cold. If that happens, you know they're there. They're holding your hand or close to your hand.
Yes.
And that is a sign that you can say, hey, this was successful. I made contact. And you read my message. Now here's another message. Go to the light. You're not supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Another way is to say, meet me in my dreams.
Yes. Yes.
When you go to sleep, visualize them as you're falling asleep. And that could also be a way for them, if they're telepathic, which they have the capability of doing, is just that if they figure out how to do it, then they will understand you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can meet them in the dream. By the time you come back, the dream may be twisted a little bit, so it looked different than what it actually happened like, but you can still have the contact.
Absolutely.
And the last method that I want to mention, actually, there's two more,
Okay.
is astral travel. There is a way that is not that simple. Yeah, it's simple, but it takes some effort to learn. And if you go to broadcastteamalpha.com, go under classes, you will find a class that Nori and I did on how to do astral travel.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's 4 different sessions that we went through, 4, 6, no, I think it's 4, where we explain, first of all, how to do it, and also what kind of environment you get into once you leave the body.
Mm-hmm.
What can you expect out there? What will you see? What can you do? This
Yeah.
gets into a lot of the things you really need to know when you get out there, so you have no fear
Yes.
when you get out there. Because if you have fear getting out of your body, you probably could very easily snap back in your body again, and you may have a hard time getting back out.
Yeah.
Fear will always get in your way.
Mm-hmm.
But what what we do there, this is a class that we did for the mastermind connection,
Mm-hmm.
and in order to see the classes,
Patreon.
you need to be a part of the mastermind connection. So, but that's easy enough. You can sign up to do that, and it will be explained to you. And what you can go to YouTube, and you can find someone out there that has a. There was one lady that said, "Learn astro travel in 6." No, I think it was 9 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, what she talked about, doing what she said, was not that dumb. It can get you out of the body if you practice long enough with it. But once you're out there, you have no clue
Mm-hmm.
on what you're doing, what can happen,
Oh,
what kind
really?
of entities can you run into,
Mm-hmm.
what could scare the crap out of you if you did not know what it was, how to stay away from entities that want to approach you because they need you to make contact.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things out there that can get in your way and create fear, so you poof, snap back in the body.
Can yeah.
That is what you need to know, and that's what you find in that class.
Okay.
So that's what but astral travel is alive and well. You can perfectly well do it. But the next question is, how long will it take me? How long do I have to practice? Well, the answer is Some people catch on like ducks to water,
Yes.
and some people takes a lot longer. It wasn't easy for me. I had to do it for quite a while. I don't know. God, it's so long ago. At least a month it take me every day. Well, in the evening, usually when I did it.
I think some people, just like anything, some things come easier to some than others. I've even met some people that are naturals at it, like you said. It takes practice. I truly believe also that we can astral travel very easily when we're dreaming, but that's not part of being consciously aware of trying to astral travel, right?
Yeah,
That's when you get into lucid dreaming when you can control your dreams and things. But that's a different show, right, Augie?
yeah, it kind of is. But send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com, and we'll get you some information on how you can participate in mind experiments or mind journeys like this when we create the future before we actually have to live it. And another way I'm going to show you, and that's I wrote this book that will actually explain how to do a lot of these things,
Yeah.
and it gets into very deep into the spiritual worlds and what you can expect, how the universe work.
Mhm.
And I have no shame, so I got to show it off. Spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal
Mhm.
consciousness. And in this book, I teach people how to use their mind in ways that they normally would think would be impossible.
Mhm.
And in the back, let's see, what is it? Yeah, it's in the back. I forget which chapter in the back, but I should talk about time travel and actually how you can do
I
it.
know. I love talking about that with you. You've also got your second book, and I know it had how millionaires think, but I always forget the full title of what's the second
Yeah,
you're
it's
to.
that universal success
Thank you.
principles and how billionaires think.
Mhm.
And that is actually, I haven't really done much with that one because I've given it to some people in Hawaii. If you go to there's there's an 800 number, and let me see, I can find it for you, where you can get it because their website was taken down because they sold a lot of the stuff that dealt with freedom.
Mhm.
And God knows you can't do that anymore. So they were taken down. There's an 800 number now. Tools for Freedom is the name of the website, which is
Okay.
partially back up, but you can find the 800 number there also where you can purchase that book. If you're in business, like to be in business, or like to have a more successful family, or anything to build your success in life, that book is kind of a must because it's the principles that billionaires and super successful people use to become both wealthy and super successful. It's all in there.
Cool.
Anyway, that's a different show.
See, we got all kinds of shows to do, Augie.
Yeah.
So, what's the
And
last way?
say again?
The last way you said you had one more after astral travel.
Yeah, I have something here that I would love to take credit for, but I can't
Okay.
because this is something that um, a guy over in England gave me this
Hmm.
design because it is an antenna that is put together by coat hangers
Hmm.
and aluminum foil.
Okay.
It's kind of like a parabolic collector in some ways.
Yeah.
And I will show the drawings and then I will try to explain it.
Okay.
Here it is. It's you get oh gosh, it's all backwards. I can't really. Yeah, here we go. Here, this is one part of a coat hanger that is. I take the coat hanger, cut it. I mean, open it up,
Hmm.
straighten it out, cut off the end so that it's straight, and then I bend it in the middle so it stands up like this.
Okay.
Then I do another coat hanger the same way so it stays up like this. And I put one on top of the other one so they look like this. And then I wrap aluminum foil around it,
Okay.
but it's open at the bottom. And I put a tape recorder or a recording device down at the bottom right here.
Okay.
And if you look at it from above, it looks like this. Here is one coat hanger going across. Here is one coat hanger going across.
Mm-hmm.
And it's open at the bottom right above the recording device
Okay.
with aluminum foil around it. So now it's kind of like a parabolic sound collection device.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
magnifying the sound going down into the bottom to the microphone in the recording device.
Okay.
Now, what you do, you can put it up in your living room. You can put it up in a haunted house. You can go to the graveyard. That's what we did once back in Omaha. We didn't do it more than once
Okay.
because there was a small group of us that went there.
Right.
And we had a tape recorder, those with, actual tapes in it, little
I
one.
have those too.
Well, that dates me, huh?
Me too.
And we went there and we set it up and we sat there. We didn't hear a thing. We sat
Okay.
there. We had it probably running for about 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Then we put the contraption down and we were still in the graveyard when we ran the recording.
Okay.
One of the guys left real early because what we heard on there, he didn't care for at all. And he took off.
Okay.
And maybe if the guy hear this recording, he might recognize himself. But we heard voices on there.
Okay.
And it was collected through that parabolic collector, went
Interesting.
directly into the microphone and got recorded. And
Wow.
I know I still have that tape somewhere in a box somewhere. It would be kind of fun to find.
Yeah.
But that actually works. You could try that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there is anything important about the angle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I think I used about 45 degrees or something. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But we didn't really think much about that at the time. We just created the thing. And this is something that you can try. If you're interested in making cross, um, well, contact with the spiritual world,
Mm-hmm.
you may have to try different things.
Yes.
Find out which one works best because several of these 6 different methods that I have talked about,
Mm-hmm.
they will work for you. But when it comes to making them, don't go to a born again Christian or a Latter-day Saint or something
Oh
like that
God.
to help them make it because they're going to think you are involved in satanic
Mm-hmm.
rituals or satanic something or other. Leave that alone because you lose friends over it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm still concerned though. My only concern that I would put out there with people is if you're going to be doing this, that you learn how to protect your space because we don't always know who we're connecting with, right? We can assume there's some of the sites you've shared, very reputable people looking into the esoteric spirituality world. But I also know, just even from personal experience, I have EVPs, the electronic voice phenomena. I used to call in to our mutual friend Jason Bland from Paranormal Soup on Sunday nights, every Sunday. And I have 2 recordings I've shared with the public. I never did communication in my own home, but I called from the most active parts of our home. And the first one, oh my gosh, Augie, when you hear this recording, and it is more than Class A communication. Apparently, the device never worked all night till I called in. It called Jason by its name. It said it was searching. It was saying all kinds of things. The following Halloween, we were all on the same network, one of our previous networks, and it was the Spookathon. And I called in, and my partner Dell was nowhere near. He was in the bedroom watching TV. It called him by name. So, and again, this was all live for people that may be doubters. This was all live. It was not planned for me to call in.
Hmm.
So there's just too much evidence I have seen over my lifetime to not believe that there isn't an afterlife. To me, I don't know how people can't know that there is one.
Well, ignorance is everywhere. I'm
Yeah,
ignorant about a lot of things too. I mean, if you're going to have a heart surgery, you don't want me to do it because I would kill you. I'm ignorant, totally ignorant on that subject.
me
So
too.
we are all ignorant in different areas.
Hmm.
So if they never research it or even care about it, they're
Hmm.
all buried in the religious text. Yeah, they would be ignorant about things like this. Well, mostly. So
Hmm.
it's nothing bad about them. It's just that they don't know.
I agree.
You mentioned something here that is very important. That's what I was going to talk about last,
Awesome.
and that is protecting ourselves. Because not all of the things out there don't necessarily want to hurt us, but in their need, in order to make contact, it will feel imposing on us
Yes.
and can feel very scary.
Hmm.
So we need to protect ourselves. If you're out there astro traveling, have no fear in your mind, because if you have fear in your mind, you draw these energies to you. You find other entities that come up to you and say they have fear in their mind too, or curious and whatever.
Hmm.
If you surround yourself with a bubble of light when you get out there, which is pretty simple to do, especially out there, you can actually see it. So now you are protected. Negative entities will not approach a ball of light.
Hmm.
They will leave it alone. And then again, if you are putting up this, well, I guess it should be said, the Ouija board, leave it alone. That's a gateway to an absolutely negative source
Hmm.
that will draw things to you, and they stick very often. So don't touch it. I would say stay with the higher vibration,
Yeah.
protect yourself in a ball of light when you do these things. In fact, expand that ball of light to enclose your whole house in
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
And that is kind of important, because then the kind of entities that will come are the ones you invite.
Hmm.
Even if there are negative entities, let's say you had a spouse that died and he was a shithead, well, okay, if you want to talk to him, he can still come in because he's invited.
Hmm. Hmm. But
But
he
with
also should leave. You got to remember that part too. That when it's time to
yeah,
go home, it's time to go home. Hmm.
yeah, time to go. And that's what maybe another written message could be about. When you're done with it, unfold the written message and hold it up or something so they can read it. Then
And
the
thank them for coming. Hmm.
yeah, thank them. Yeah, absolutely, thank them for it.
Hmm.
And but that protection is very important. If you have the feeling afterwards that something didn't leave, ask them to thank them for the contact.
Hmm.
Tell them you are not supposed to be here. Go to the light. A wonderful experience is waiting for you,
Hmm.
or something to that effect, because
I
they can
have
read
two videos that I share with quite a few people. I always tell people I'm not trying to self promote here, but one of them, I really believe that, especially if somebody feels they're empathic, that I don't like people to feel like they have to come from a place of fear, which we've talked about, to protect themselves. I believe one of the most powerful emotions out there is love. So I
yeah.
walk through, I get them to design what will work with them. for them, rather than them watching the video, finishing it, and going, "What did she say I had to do in step 3?" They will make it themselves following the video, and they'll know
Yeah.
what to do. But again, involves light, involves love. My son, my eldest son, for years, I taught both my kids how to do this, and he just shared over the probably about 10 years ago. He decided he would use the vision of angel wings, whereas my youngest, who's severely autistic, he calls it the bubble. But he's able to do it, so you can teach children even. You're living like, and this is really helpful information, Augie, especially when you're having, say, paranormal activity, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to get people to understand that you need to move on, like you said. I was going to add very quickly the other one, which I think is very important. It's called grounding and gridding. So grounding yourself to the earth's core, if you will, that really helps too, with connection. But again, we don't have to get into a lot of these complicated concepts because
Yeah.
of what you've discussed tonight.
That's right.
Protection, that's important.
Yeah, it's very important. And don't forget to do it, because things can stick.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you may not know it,
Mm-hmm.
but if you find out, write messages, and also love, the feeling of love
Mm-hmm.
protects you. And then the question is, how do we create a feeling of love? Well, we know the word, but what is it? How do we feel? We create the feeling of love in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have told me that I don't know how to do that. But the thing is that it's really very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Think of someone that you really love.
Even a
You,
pet. That's what I say in the video. Think of someone you really love, and
yeah,
that feeling you get. It's all within the mind, creating it again. The mastermind, the power of thought, right?
yeah, absolutely. Think about your mom or someone that you really love,
Mm-hmm.
and engage yourself in the visualized images of them, and tell them, I love you, I love you. And then quickly change your direction of focus to where you want to have that feeling of love directed.
Mm-hmm.
That is also what you do when you transfer love to someone for healing purposes. That's what
Yes.
I used to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And once you direct that love follows your attention to where it is going. Let's say that you're going out on an astral journey.
Mm-hmm.
Surround yourself with the feeling of your mom when you go out there.
Yeah.
She might show up.
Some people like it, like if you've got a great mom, some of us don't, but that's what I do. That's exactly what you're talking about, Augie, is getting people, because I've met lots of people too. Well, how do I do this, like with love? Like, I don't know really what love feels like. Or, well, we all know love, you just got to expand. I mean, if you haven't got family, somebody's had a pet, or heck, I mean, even if you really had to do it in a pinch, if you really not had another living, breathing soul of any kind that you've loved, there's got to have been a job or something you had a powerful feeling about in life that was positive. I always think.
Mhm. I want to say something more here towards the end of the show here. And in the mastermind, in the classes there, that you will find at broadcastteamalpha.com. We have classes on self-hypnosis that will absolutely change your life if you take that class.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have classes on meditation and increasing your intuition and psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are dyslexic, you gotta go there. There's a free
Brain,
one. Yeah, well, you do the super brain yoga is what it's called, where you synchronize the two hemispheres, and all those learning problems can go away.
mm-hmm.
Then the class on astral travel, and then we did one on universal success principles and how billionaires thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna enjoy some of this if you go. And of course, this book right here, that'll teach you to use your mind in ways that normally you would think would be impossible, because it's written on several levels of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time you read it, you're gonna get through and say, "Wow, that was pretty good." Second time you read it, you're going to find like, I learned a lot I didn't see the first time.
Yes.
If you read it the third time, you need to call me because then you are ready for stage 2. Uh, that will go a little different and deeper into the universe where you can be able to do some things that is pretty nice.
I can't wait. Augie, I'm so glad that you were here tonight. I want to thank everybody that was in the chat. I didn't get a chance. We tried to keep with the comments, but you guys know when I have Augie on, there's so much to talk about. So I want to thank Shady D because she put a lot of the links down in the chat for us, and a lot of great comments from Zach, and we had a few other people in there tonight. And Nori, thanks for popping in. But Augie, where can they find you? And I'm going to be talking to you the next couple of days. I got to have you back on because I'd love to follow up with a few more topics that we sort of touched on tonight that we have.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Nori, for listening in. I bet this was so much fun that I bet half of it was illegal, at least.
So where can they find you? Tell them everything.
Okay. Well, the best way to find us is at our website, broadcastteamalpha.com. And here's a little hint for you. This book, you will find it on Amazon, of course. I will be there, where it also explained all the different, I think it's 52 different subjects that is written about in here on how the universe work, and in fact, even what this guy named Jesus looked like.
Oh,
And
I love that topic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can find it there. But according to the old surviving Roman records. But also, the book is on sale over at Aage-Nost.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I even pay the postage, so that's probably a better place for you to go get it. Mm-hmm. And besides that, on Sundays, Nori and I do the Broadcast Team Alpha radio show. Mm-hmm. And it's on YouTube as well as at broadcastteamalpha.com, where we have amazing guests on. And in fact, this coming Tuesday, tomorrow, we are having a ghost hunter on, which is not just a ghost hunter. He's going to be talking about the other side of the veil quite a bit also. So that's going to be very interesting.
Ooh, awesome.
And we've had some phenomenal guests that speaks about the unlimited power of the mind, as well as, down at the bottom, I have some TV shows that I did almost 20 years ago. One on the time travel, where I actually interview a guy that made the time travel device that I have, and
yes.
I show on BBC television. And there's a lot of goofy stuff. Just go look. And also, when you go to Broadcast Team Alpha, go into the picture gallery and look around. There is 5,000 plus unbelievable pictures of things that should not exist, but it does.
I share your 3 videos that you have. You're going to have to correct me in the title, but one is the strange things found on the moon, one is on Mars, and one is on Earth. And I share those videos all the time with people.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, because Nori and I did some video documentaries on the real Mars pictures, what's really on Mars, as well as what's really on the moon in NASA prints and the Russian Space Agency. And in fact, there's one or two on there from the Chinese that saw buildings up there. Mm-hmm. And there's people walking.
Yes, that's you just read my mind, because that's what blew my mind. Like, people up there, folks, with no spacesuits on, like nothing. It'll blow your mind to watch and they tell you where they found them. So it's not like they just flash them. And no, you tell people exactly where they come from. Both of you do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just
lastly,
make sure
the mastermind on Sundays.
Make sure you take the rest of the day when you go off into the picture gallery, because you can't get out of there.
Mm-hmm. And then the mastermind, to remind people again, and then I let them know where to find me. So Hmm.
Yeah, mastermind we're doing on Sundays at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific time and 2 o'clock in the afternoon East Coast time.
Hmm.
And send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com, and we'll get you some information as well as a link to go and come and participate in one of those mastermind sessions.
Absolutely. Now, very quickly, I'm going to read the comments here. Zachman says, always a pleasure to see you, Augie. Since you're in Tucson, last thing I want to say to you is fear the fork. He said, LOL. Have a good night, everybody. Love and light to you all. And he said, this was fun. Have a good night. Now, I'm going to tell you where to find me quickly, but I want to remind you guys to tune in, please, next Monday. I have Debbie A. Anderson, and I have her. There's a musician that's working with her. Sorry, hers. I'm trying to think of his name right now, and it's completely skipping my mind. The reason why is Debbie has channeled 8 frequencies from Spirit that they have been asked that they be released August 25th. So the closest day we could get is Monday night. These are solfeggio tones that she worked with this musician to create, and we're going to play them next Monday night. And it's powerful. There's all kinds of healing involved with this. You don't want to miss the show next week with the Angel Rock. I promise you it's going to be an amazing one. Also, if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me on facebook.com/the Angel Rock. You want to book a reading, you want to work with some crystal healing, chakra balancing, things like that. I also do mentoring. Lastly, I have 2 groups on Facebook, All Things Paranormal and Paranormal University, and the Angel Rocker Tribe for many of the things we talked about tonight, as well as the spirituality, energetic, and power of the mind. And I want to thank you, Augie. You're an amazing guest, as always, and friend. And
Now,
I will have him back soon, folks, because there's many things we talked about tonight. We touched on, Augie, that we need to do some shows on.
we'll find something to talk about.
For sure. I want to send you all so much love and light. Thank you so much for being here. If you feel you have a friend that may enjoy this, please don't forget to share this, as well as have your friends tune in. There's something for everybody here on United Public Radio Network, and we're so grateful that you support us and tune in. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
Good night, everybody, and good night, Nori.
Night, Nori. Night, everybody else.